It's 7 o'clock. Today is December the 6th. This is the Spring Hope Town of Commissioners meeting. First item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I will ask everyone, please stand, remove your hat, and face the flag, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the minutes from the November 1st meeting. Everyone's had a chance to read over. I'll entertain any changes or a motion to accept them as written.
I make a motion to accept them as written.
Second. I have a motion and second to accept the minutes as written. There's no more discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Minutes are passed. Next item on the agenda is the introduction of the interim town manager, Mr. Al Mason. I was going to give you a chance to go ahead and talk if you want to introduce yourself. I know it's multiple times in the agenda.
Yeah.
I was going to let you do it multiple times.
Well, I certainly appreciate the opportunity to work with you folks, and I hope to all get out that we move ahead in getting a new permanent manager. I enjoy retirement too much, but this is a wonderful little town, and I certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here and work with you during this transition period. Thanks.
All right. The next item we have on the agenda is the appeal hearing for 205 West Main Street. Mr. Edwards, I'm going to let you lead us in this.
Okay. Do we have a Bible?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if Ms. Emery and Mr. Clark, and do y'all have anybody else that you're calling to testify? Okay. Well, if you could come over here to the town clerk.
And Mr. Clark and Ms. Emery are the only people that are allowed to speak during the hearing, is that correct?
Right. Yeah, they'll be giving testimony. Yeah. So these, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, John, I didn't know.
Just put your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand.
Both at the same time. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I affirm.
All right.
Thank you.
Ms. Emery, I think you can take the podium first.
Okay.
And if you just want to present whatever you want to present to the board.
Okay. Well, thank you. My name is Ruth. I'm your code enforcement official for the town of Spring Hope. Many of you I've met, some of you I have not met, so it's good to meet you tonight. So the appeals case is in reference to, as you know, the collapse of 205 West Main Street. And we sent out the first notice of violation, notice of hearing on August 3rd. We sent an email, plus we mailed it in first class and certified mail. And the hearing was scheduled for August 31st, and the hearing was held. I was present, Mr. Clark was present, Mr. Edwards was present, and we discussed the situation and what needed to be done. At no time was there any discretion of anything that said that, no, I don't agree. Everybody knew that there was a collapse of the building, that something needed to be done, whether it was renovation or demolition. So we, during the hearing, Mr. Clark said that he would prepare a packet releasing the indemnity toward Faith Christian Ministries and also the Bissett family from, if anything happened while during the construction or reconstruction or demolition, that they would not be held liable for anything if it did happen. He said he would get those packets ready and mailed out on 9/3. Then he would ask for the Bissett family and Faith Christian Ministries to give him permission to enter their property, which he had previously told us that he was unable to enter their property because they had told him to stay off of their property. So during the hearing, he told me that he would make this packet and ask them for their permission to gain access to their property with the machinery that's necessary to make the renovation. On 9/3, I received a call from John Clark advising he was diabetic, he had a health emergency, and so he was unable to put the packet together, but he would send out the packet by midweek the next week. On 9/8, I called John to get an update on the packet, and he was again unable to get the packet together due to his health, but he was advised that he was working on it. And he advised that he had received a verbal quote from the contractor or the demolition, or two contractors, so he was going to try to get that in written form. On 9/10, John called and advised that he had to go back to the doctor and was working on the packets, but had not been able to get them sent out yet. He advised he would send them out by the middle of the next week. So I decided I would call him again at the middle of next week. On 9/15, I spoke with John, and he advised that he was preparing to send them out, but he had completed the packet, sent it to his uncle, who was an attorney, to review it, and then he would be sending it back to him the next day, and he would send it out. And there were some other emails that occurred from attorney Henry Temple and John talking about the situation and what was being done, and he gave him the update. On 9/23, I spoke with John again, and he advised that he had been at the doctor's office and had been working 12 or 14 hours per day and hadn't finished the packet yet. I advised John to make the packet a priority and to send it out this week by the weekend. Also, I advised him that he would be receiving a finding of fact order, giving him 30 days to make progress on the building restoration. So the first notice of violation, notice of hearing, went out on 8/3, so there was nothing that actually took place during that time that I could see. Nothing happened to the building. 8/31 to 9/28, when the finding of fact order was mailed out, there was still nothing that went on. That's 60 days right there. The finding of fact order gave him 30 days to make progress, for me to see something visible happening. But I didn't see anything visible happening other than the first time that I viewed it, there was a fence barrier put up, and that's the only thing that I could see that had happened. So after the finding of fact was sent out, I received an email from John advising that he was appealing the finding of fact order. He stated that Chapter 6 ordinance information online was for residential, and that he could not work, he didn't work completed in 30 days, which it's our common practice if there's a renovation going on and we have to send out a finding of fact order. We know that in a lot of situations you cannot complete a building in 30 days, but we expect to see some progress within that 30 days. And then we work with, if there's progress being made, we gladly work with the owner in order to get that, that business completed and that renovation completed. And also in the ordinances, section 6-62, it states that minimum standards for non-residential dwellings and structures. A, the minimum standards of habitability set forth in the article for dwellings and dwelling units shall also apply to non-residential buildings and structures, except to the extent that such standards do not apply to non-residential buildings and structures pursuant to the North Carolina State Building Code. For example, minimum cooking facility standards would not apply to a non-residential building that has no kitchen. And so basically, the appeal that I understood was that because, first of all, the ordinance did not state online that it was for non-residential, but here it states in the ordinance that they're the same except for a kitchen. But we did send out an email, as soon as we received the email from John, we did send him out an email with the non-residential code of ordinances, which we did not know had not been updated online. Also, as far as the time concerned with the 30 days, the ordinances state in section 6-8.5, if after such notice and hearing, the hearing officer determines that the non-residential building, structure, or dwelling unit under consideration is unfit for human habitation in accordance with the standards herein set forth, he shall state in writing his finding of facts in support of such determination, stating whether said non-residential building, structure, dwelling, or dwelling unit is deteriorated or dilapidated, and shall issue and cause to be served upon the owner thereof an order. If deteriorated, the order shall require the owner within a specified period of time to repair, alter, or improve the building, structure, or unit so as to render it fit for human habitation. If dilapidated, the order shall require the owner within a specified period of time to either repair, alter, or improve such building, structure, or unit so as to bring it into compliance with the standards described herein, or to demolish and remove such building, structure, or unit. There was no specific time limit or time frame in the ordinance as to how much time that I could give on the finding of fact. So therefore, it was 30 days. He had already received from 8/3 to 8/31, 30 days, 8/31 to 9/27 when I sent the email. Okay, so then after that, finding of fact went out, the finding of fact order, then we received the notice that it was going to be appealed. So of course, everything has to stop whenever there's an appeal hearing. Then we can't do anything else until that is decided. But on 11/8, I received an email from Henry Temple, the attorney for Faith Christian Ministries. He was asking for an update. And then John Clark responded and advised he was waiting for approval from the Bissett family and Faith Christian Ministries to give him permission to enter on their properties any necessary equipment to begin the renovation, but would not send out the packets until he has their permission because the packets list certain deadlines that he intends. I responded and asked if he had sent letters requesting their permission, since he initially stated in the hearing that he would send the packets out requesting a response from the property owners with a reply within 14 days, but there was no response or reply to my inquiry. Does anybody have any questions about this?
Do you have anything else to present as far as information right now?
My only other concern is every week that I inspect the building, it looks like it deteriorates and falls in more. And I noticed that in between the buildings, I guess it's the Bissett family building and then the 205. If you look in between the buildings, it is moving toward the other building. So my concern is that in between those buildings, it's just going to collapse into that other building. So something needs to be done right away before that happens.
And I guess before the board, Mr. Clark, do you have any questions for Ms. Emery?
Okay.
Okay. You want to ask if anybody wants to have questions? Or?
You may have any questions, Ms. Emery?
Okay.
That's pretty thorough, thank you.
Good evening. back in June, one of the Bissett brothers told me I could not access the property, told me to stay off the property, remove all the safety barricading, any fencing, anything like that. I've been working with Dan Bissett to try to get this resolved. They finally appointed a new trustee and a new manager. And as of Thursday of last week, Mr. Chris, Morton, who is the new manager for Bissett Investments LLC, finally sent me a letter giving me permission to return to the property to do work on it. I requested from my contractor who's going to do the demolition an update on pricing. He finally got back to me this evening. I will update the packets, which have been done for a while. I just haven't sent them out because there's no point, because they're all date sensitive. We get those to the Bissets. Faith Christian Ministry, their attorney, I'll do that tonight. It will take 7 days for the gentleman to mobilize once the Bissets and Faith Christian Ministry sign off on it. It will take 2 weeks to get the roof out of there and 6 to 8 weeks to get the shoring up for the walls. And then I'll be done with this until I can afford to rebuild. My appeal was based on the fact that I didn't have access at the time, and that was my concern. Am I flawed? Yes. Am I busy? Am I not healthy? Yes, all of that. But I've got a plan, I've got it worked out, I just need to make it happen. My biggest holdup has been, I've not been allowed on the property, and I'll be more than happy to show you all the letter, give me permission. Any questions?
Do you have any questions for him?
I do not.
I'm gonna get off my feet if y'all have any questions, I'll sit down.
Anybody here have any questions?
I do, yes. So, way prior to June, there was some instructions given to you to email progress weekly to town manager Jay Kim, and you failed. You did a couple, and then on some of his prodding, you finally followed up, but that was a fail. It seems like it's something one after another, and you say you were told to take the fencing down. The fencing is still on the property, is it not?
Kevin Marks told me to put the fencing up with the National Building Inspections Department. I was told to remove it. There was a discussion with Jay Kim, the town manager. It is on the right-of-way for Spring Hope and the property line for the Bissets. If the Bissett brother that wanted it removed it, that was one thing, but I was told leave it be, because it's a safety barricade to keep people out of the building.
I guess my overall question is, maybe out of line when I ask this, but as much runaround as we've gotten and many excuses as we've heard for the past over a year, why should we believe that you're gonna have it done in 6 to 8 weeks now?
Don't believe it. That's my only
That's my
choice. I mean,
That's my problem. I don't.
I've got access now. I can get it done.
That's all.
Well, where's the timeline that you're talking about? You're saying 6 to 8 weeks, you're saying you have a packet, but where is the packet?
The packet is on my computer. It's the contracts, it's the indemnity agreements, it's the timeline laid out for the parties involved. And I'll be more than happy to share that with the city.
So why
All
would you?
date specific, based on the original packet that I put together, but the dates were dependent on having access to the property.
You know, Doug, I agree with Brent. You know, it's just been round and round and round, and so it makes it hard to put faith in what you're telling us. And then, you know, how coincidental is that where I couldn't get anything done, but this afternoon I got the letter that says I have access. It just all seems to go right back in line with all around and around we've heard for over a year.
I got the letter on Thursday. I asked my contractor to update his numbers. I got that this evening. And I have the email, I can show it to you. It's not something made up. It's been round and around with Bissett families because they're fighting amongst themselves. They couldn't get along until they appointed an outside trustee. And once they did that, I got my letter that I've been asking for months.
So I will ask another question. If you've got all these packets ready, and you've got some documents that you need Faith Christian and visits to sign, obviously, you're not here to do that tonight, but why wouldn't you have printed those to bring them in to add as the evidence in this appeals hearing?
I didn't get the information on the contractor's updated prices until
You
this
just
evening.
said yourself a few moments ago that you had the packet ready for weeks. Why would you have not printed those to bring to us? And I know they've got dates on, but you could have said these dates will change, but at least I can see that you've got something done, that all you had to do was change dates.
I can provide the information to you guys.
You should have provided it when you walked in the door.
All right, anything else to present? Anything else specifically?
No.
Well, then I think it's just up to the board, looking for a motion either to uphold the hearing officer's decision or to reverse the decision. So,
Just make a motion to uphold the hearing officer's decision.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to uphold the hearing officer's decision. There's no discussion. All in favor say aye. All opposed say nay.
so then the decision that she issued that you have in your agenda packet, the letter dated September 28th, at the end of that letter, she was ordering him to have the property fixed in 30 days, or else condemnation proceedings could begin. And with the vote you just took, then that restarts the clock for 30 days on Mr. Clark, which by my calculation will be January 4th. So I believe the next meeting is January 3rd. So when we meet January 3rd, we won't be necessarily addressing condemnation, but then when we meet in February, that'll be on the agenda unless progress is made.
You guys understand that?
Yeah, so that, it was 30 days from September 28th, but that, as Ms. Emery stated, when he appealed, that stopped that, so 30 days from today is January 4th.
Thank you. Mr. Clark, please make them progress. If you could get copies, even the old ones with the incorrect dates on them, you get them to the town attorney and the town manager, of course, please. And then as you update them, please send them right away.
And the code enforcement.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing for ZTA 2021-07, changing language in the ordinance. I will need a motion and a second to go into public hearing.
Move we go into public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to go into public hearing. If there's no more discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your chance to speak. This is a zoning text amendment, 2021 ZTA 07 for R8 language. What has been submitted, we've worked out with the town's attorney, and we'll change the language of 2666, section D, from R8 higher density residential district. The purpose of this district is to provide for older in-home neighborhoods which have developed at this density. Shall not be used in newer areas. The proposed version is the R8 higher density residential district. The purpose of this district is to provide for older in-town neighborhoods which have developed at this density and to provide for other medium and high density residential areas. So is there anyone that would wish to address the board this evening on this?
What is a medium high density? So you want to grandfather in the ones we have now, right?
The ones we have now are accepted.
Okay, and then going forward,
you have a planned subdivision, not just that somebody can sell a small lot. Because in a planned development, then the developer can have some smaller lots in it.
Less than, what's a small lot?
All right, we'll reduce it down to 8,000 from, is it 15?
Yeah,
12,
15.
Inside the
Well-
town or outside the zone?
inside the city limits.
Inside the city limits?
And the ETJ.
And the ETJ.
Okay. So you're really going back to the deal with the white guy, the white developer, right?
Supposed to help cover him. It was missed by the previous town manager and the board that it was the fact that R8 was only in the definitions, it was nowhere else in the code.
Correct. So you're trying to cover what happened then with the developer, the
Yes, ma'am.
developer, the white developer. So that's where all this came from?
Yeah.
Okay.
But then I would say that the planning board looked at what Nashville, Nash County, Halifax County, Franklin County have in their ordinances, and their comparable zones of R8 are not just downtown, but are for all areas. So when the planning board looked at what other towns in the area did, changing it to what we are proposing, the planning board's proposing, was in line with what they do too, so.
But not the initial, just recently the R8. Not initially, right? Because there
Well-
wasn't anything in there from going R8 to ag. So y'all,
Right.
right?
The current one, the current definition is for downtown areas. And then looking at what other towns and counties around here do, they have R8 that is not just downtown, but it is for the entire county or the entire municipality. And the planning board thought it was advisable for the town of Spring Hope to have R8 available for all of the town limits and all the ETJ.
But isn't this a spin-off from what happened with the developer White on 581?
That's what flagged it, yes, that's what flagged it.
Okay, that's what I
yes.
was trying to get at. So
Yeah,
this
that's,
is,
The other thing we found on the information that was brought to us is National and Rocky Mount have R4s and R6s.
Right.
We are not interested in going that small at this time. So you could actually have, if you want to develop in those areas, he could reduce his lots by half on his smallest lots. Yes, sir.
This lady that spoke earlier used ordinances. I think we're going down a slippery slope when you start changing language. I think we gotta live to what the ordinances are. That's the law. We start changing this, we can change every ordinance we want. Someone can look at it and says, well, it's a gray area. I don't think that's right to change the laws and the ordinances. It was stated that R8s were set up because that was what was in town. It's stated by the comprehensive plan that you got in June of 2020. Those areas are RR, that's rural residential. And that is not high density. That's what it is. The map is there. You can see it and understand it. And for them to say that it's confusing, this R8's confusing, I think you've added more to the case now. Now you've got two zones in one. You got an R8 that's an R8 and an R15. So what is it? I mean, you're adding mud to it. I think by trying to do this wiggle, you've made a bigger mess. I feel you keep the ordinances and go with them. That's what was brought back in those days. That's what was voted on in those days. People like your position voted it, and that's what they thought the future should be. If it needs to be changed, it's got to go through the right channels, and it's not. I mean, if you look at that comprehensive plan, it talks about schools, it talks about roads, it talks about EMT, it talks about fire, it talks about police. Through this whole process, I have not seen the developer bring one document stating, a document from any of those entities that this is good, that this will not bother us, that this will not hurt us. You do it before, not after you start the process.
and I've seen other instances where the code wasn't clear, we didn't know that was gonna happen, so we're gonna change it now. And then 6 years, something's gonna change, but we need to change it back because the zone has changed or the city limits changed. It was just a couple of weeks ago, maybe 2 months ago when this happened. I think y'all need to stop messing around with the law and the codes, period. Go through, I don't know how it's done, don't know how it's done right. But he's right. I don't know exactly what you said, Jerry. But you need to slow down and quit changing these just to cover up your mistakes.
And I just want to address that and say that I don't think it was unclear what the board was approving. When they approved R8, the map was there, the density is there, the lot size is clear, and I think we were all in favor of it. So it's not changing the zoning, it's just a definition in the ordinance to clarify what was already approved and desired by the board.
No,
So.
everything's a cover up.
So does this mean that in the future, R15 won't be considered anymore at all for any other new developments? I mean, is it just totally eliminated?
No,
See?
it's just adding R8 in a designed area. So Mr. White's subdivision also has a couple of R53,000 square foot, which is, I'm not sure there's anybody in this room that owns that much property inside the city limits. The lot just worked out, the few lots worked out the way, I guess, terrain worked with them laying out the roads. Now, when you ask about us changing these ordinances, most of these ordinances were written by other people, not residents of Spring Hope. This was sent by the town to like NC State or UNC School of Government. The next one we're addressing, if you'd like to not change them, then according to our ordinances, the two auction houses here in town, you need to shut them down tonight because they're not approved to even be in Spring Hope.
Who's not?
There are so many things that you just,
You can't talk while it's talking.
you just can't see in the future, but so far, it's just, nobody has that crystal ball. And the fact that this was caught in a definition from a former member of the planning board, it would have been brought to nobody's attention. None of us saw it. This was reviewed by the planning board. It came back to the town board. Both boards approved it. It went back to the planning board. We looked at all of the surrounding municipalities. And we're not even asking or looking at making them near as small as those. I mean, 8,000 was the minimum of anybody's. Nashville, I think, goes to an R4, half that size, for like a tiny house with a tiny yard. And I mean, this is,
Nash County's R6 too.
Nash County's R6, one of them is an R4. I mean, we all looked at this in the planning board. There are just hundreds of pages to look at, and it was just something in a definition. Most of these were not written by people from here in town. These were sent to outside sources to be written. They are constantly updated. The clerk will tell you, every time we do this, we send a list off. There are municipalities that send a list every month or two for things that are changed and adjusted to put up on there. I mean, it's, you know, if you sit there and you say, this is what it's going to be forever, forever is a long time. And Mr. Mason is now working with the review process with, I guess, EMS, fire department, and we're a long ways from him breaking ground and putting a house on an RA lot. It's not going to be done in 2021, I guarantee you. But I reviewed it before Mr. Mason came on and heard he was coming, and he's professional retired town manager, and I gave it to him. I know his first call was back to Stocks Engineering for probably, I think they brought us 4 sets of plans. The minimum was 10 to be given out to subcommittees for review. And then there's like a request for 10 more sets of plans. This isn't just something that's happening doom, doom, doom. It is a long, drawn out process.
Mr. Mayor, let me mention that we're talking about 2 separate processes here. One is this amendment of the text of the zoning ordinance, and what you're referring to is the subdivision process. Subdivision process cannot proceed until this happens. So you need to recognize that. And I've told the developer that. Plans have been delivered, but they're not, in my opinion, at this point in time, not ready to go back to the planning board. which that's required. But the first step in the process is, and that's for the board to decide, whether or not they want to make this text amendment to the zoning ordinance.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Is it, so my personal opinion is, if we go ahead and put the R8 back on the books as a possibility, that's what most of the developers are gonna want, because that's gonna make it the most profitable for them. Can we stick with the R15 and make this an exception, a one-time exception, without changing the ordinance? Or doing something like that so that we are R8 forevermore?
Since you're not R8 forevermore anyway, it has to be planned. I mean, it's not, you know, you could get a lot beside your house that was 16,005 square feet, you couldn't split it in half. You wouldn't be allowed to do that. It would have to be part of a planned subdivision.
Right. But we all know that any development that's done in the future, this is gonna apply more to that than anything that's already existing property within the town.
And the town
You're
board,
setting the precedent that any future developments that are brought to town will be R8.
well, the town, if anybody wants, if anybody has a piece of property that's not R8 and they want it to become R8, they'll have to come to the board, just like this landowner did, and ask the board, and the board can approve it or the board cannot approve it.
But they have
So-
no justification to not approve it, correct?
When it comes to rezoning, the board has full discretion to either allow the rezoning or to not allow the rezoning.
Without any justification, they can just say, no, I don't want that to be.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, but then once something is zoned and somebody applies to do something on their property and they're allowed to do that based on the zone, then the town's board's discretion is limited. You know, so if you can own a florist shop on your property and you want to do that and you go through the proper procedure through the town office, the town board doesn't have the power to say, no, we don't want a florist shop on that piece of property. But taking a step back, like we were saying, when it comes to changing the zone on a piece of property, that's up to the board, and they can take anything into consideration in approving it or not approving it.
Okay.
Would you say that's right?
I just to add that what you're talking about, Mr. Attorney, is a zoning map change. Property that's currently zoned RA or another zone, this doesn't affect it. They still have to, if somebody wants to come in for a new zoning, they still have to go through the process of the city attorney or town attorney, I'm sorry. Same difference. Just described.
So initially, it was an inadvertent error. Is that what y'all are saying? I heard you say, did I understand you right? It's an inadvertent error?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I gotta ask, maybe I'm slow, I might be slow. But when I look at the land use comprehensive plan, RR is everywhere around this town, ETJ, everywhere. It's all green. Except for west of here, and there's some R15s, or MR, medium density residents. So my question is now, with him being in that location of an RR, how are we specifically just saying it's just that location and not the everything else that's all the way around town? Help me.
RA is residential agriculture, residential agriculture.
We're talking ETJ.
Right, but it's all RA. It's all
RR.
residential
It's RR.
Then it cannot be changed to anything without our approval. The board has to approve it. It will go to the planning board first.
So this is just a special situation then? I mean, that's what you're telling me, because you're telling me that just for him, he's come, it's approved. If someone else wants to come and do it, they have to come back to you again for their land. Everything around this town is RR, except for a small portion that's MR. Everything, it's all green. So I'm trying to understand how it's not pertaining to everything now that's RR and just his land.
In particular, it's
That's
just
all.
a correction to a definition. His subdivision is approved by the planning board and the town board.
The rezone.
rezoning. The rezoning has been approved. That was done months ago. It's, that one is gone. We're clearing up an issue in the definitions is all we're working on.
So you can approve a zone that's basically not that zone. You can approve it without any documentation. I'm hearing now by Mr. Powell, I don't know.
Mason.
Yeah, that he now has plans to deliver, these official plans, but they can't be delivered. So 2 months ago, 3 months ago, you approved this and he didn't have these plans then?
It's like he can maybe explain it better than me, but you're getting apples and oranges.
No.
It's rezoning is one thing, zoning. Then the subdivision
I understand all
process
that.
is two
I
different,
understand.
well, when you're talking about plans and everything, that's the subdivision process.
I understand it, but when you rezone
And in fact,
something,
and in fact, he's saying up till today, his hands are tied, and
I
he's not
agree.
gonna take one move subdivision wise.
I understand everything you're saying.
Right.
But when you rezone something from a larger entity to a small, and a more dense entity, that is gonna affect every other one I talked about, every one of these. And I haven't seen anything or watched any of the meetings where he's shown anything, documentation where Nash County schools have said, this is great, we got it. Put 200 houses out there, we got it, don't worry about it. This is what worries me, that we're gonna do this now. We're gonna go to the next step, the plans are gonna hit, they're gonna get them, and all of a sudden Nash County in a year and a half is gonna say, whoa, we're in trouble here. And that's what worries me when it's done in this order, I guess is what I'm getting at. I just feel the cart's in front of the horse.
So you're talking about the document that was done a couple of years ago, right? What do you call it? The document.
No, that was June 2020, comprehensive land. Go ahead.
Can I ask a couple of questions? I guess I haven't been paying attention. But, the land we're talking about, that got rezoned to R8 already? And then he couldn't use R8 because the definition was wrong? Is that the problem?
We have not told him that. We're, the planning board, I mean, that statement has not been made to them.
So-
Internally in the town, the issue came up, it was put before the planning board, and the planning board approved the text change.
Okay, but you want to be R8, right?
It is R8.
Okay. But it can't be R8 because the definition is wrong.
Correct,
And that's what you're trying to fix.
correct.
Nobody has said that. I mean,
But, okay, I'll say that. But, you said before,
We would be in a
if
con-
subdevelopment comes,
there would be an issue if we don't approve the text amendment tonight. That's the answer. I mean, yes, I'm.
but if we do approve the definition change and another subdevelopment comes, to Tony's question, do they have to go through the same process and get it rezoned?
Exactly the same process. And like I say, it really would be the exact same process because even though now, sitting here in December, we know there's an issue, at the time he applied, through the town office, through the planning board, to the town board, the issue was not in anybody's consciousness. So it had, the issue that we're talking about didn't affect the process because nobody had noticed it.
I understand.
It was only
But after
afterwards.
the definition's been changed.
It would be the exact same process.
If it gets changed, does he have to come back
No,
and say,
he's already zoned R8.
Illegally though, because there's no such definition.
That's not true.
Oh, it's
So
not
let's
true.
just,
Okay.
so I understand what happened? I don't know how it happened, but I
Yes.
understand what happened.
Anyone else wish to address the board? Then I will entertain a motion to go back into open session.
Move we go back into open session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to go back into open session. If there's no more discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The next item is consideration of action on ZTA 2021-07.
I'd like to make a motion 2021-ZTA-07 is not inconsistent with the comprehensive plans that have been adopted by the town of Spring Hope, and that 2021-ZTA-07 is reasonable and in the public interest, and the Board of Commissioners do approve this change to amend Chapter 26, Sections 66.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. For ZT, or for 2021 ZTA 07 is not inconsistent with the comprehensive plans. It is reasonable and in the public interest, and that the Board of Commissioners does approve this item, this text amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing for ZTA 2021-08, auction houses and permitted uses. This one is a town-sponsored text amendment application. Came to the office. Mr. Batchelor wishes to open an auction house on his property he has in the Central Business District. We do not have auction houses listed as a permitted use anywhere in the town of Spring Hope. Before Mr. Mason was in the office, we have two in the Central Business District. It was sent to the planning board. They decided to just add LI, and then if another one comes and they'd like to add it in another district, then it could come back before this board, but they just thought at that time we would add just LI. So I'm going to make a motion and a second for the public hearing. I'm sorry, I'm going to ask for a motion and a second for the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for a public hearing. If there's no more discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. We're in public hearing. Now I'm giving y'all the definition and tried to make the motion in a second myself. I heard this long, it didn't work. Mr. Batchelor owns a business in the light industrial district. He would like to open an auction house. When it came before the town hall a couple of months ago, the auction houses are nowhere as a permitted use in the town of Spring Hope. And I can tell you by state law, you have to open any type of business somewhere in the town. You are just allowed to limit where it could be. So Mr. Batchelor has asked that we would add in permitted uses in the Central Business District, or in the light industrial business where his business is, but we like to kind of make this a catch-all and pick the two in the Central Business District. And that way we will take them out of the darkness and bring them into the light. So, if anybody has any questions, we discussed it at length in the planning board about parking issues and anything else that we could think of. If there's a problem y'all would have or think you would have with an auction house being in the light industrial, since the ones in the Central Business District are grandfathered in.
I have one. I would like to get something figured out for the auction house on Nash for a loading area. Because we can't have any more trailers stopping in the road and loading and cars having to go in oncoming traffic to stop.
Has that happened recently?
Last weekend.
Last weekend, somebody stopped in the street?
I got room for them to pull in off the road.
Well, no, you're fine where you're at.
Oh, okay.
No, that ain't even, that's
We do
not
too,
even a
they just
question.
don't do it.
Yeah, we need to figure out where we can do a loading zone, because I can't have cars going in oncoming traffic on 64 alternate.
And we go back in open session and approve auction houses. If one of the commissioners would like to state that they have to have an on-site loading and unloading area, they can add that at the same time. It can be the fine print note to the permitted use. Ms. Mason?
I'm sorry, what?
Would they be able to do that under open session when they bring auction houses in that they would need to add, they have to have an
I think
on-site
he's talking
loading
about
dock?
something entirely different, aren't you? You're talking about an existing,
It is existing, but it's gotta be approved that it's actually able to be a place before we can talk about.
well, it's, like the mayor said, it's grandfathered in now.
Well, I thought they had to adopt it. I thought you said
No.
they had to be adopted.
We're just, they're grandfathered in, we can't close them.
I just
but-
did a loading area.
Yeah.
But we could add, to the new one, we could add that it requires an on-site loading area. Yes, ma'am.
Is this the bachelor down the street that we approved for the gaming facility? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yes,
This
ma'am.
isn't the same one, or?
Same property.
So it's going from, gaming to auction house?
It was gaming, and then what was it after that, Steve?
And it's gonna be going to an
What?
auction house?
A bar, right?
Pawn shop.
Pawn shop, yeah.
Pawn shop. I didn't
He
know what it was.
originally, several years ago, went to a gaming facility. Mr. Batchelor came to the board, wanted to open a pawn shop. He's
Right.
since changed his mind and would like to have an auction house instead.
Gotcha.
If I could have figured out where Jay had put the others in to approve them, I would have, but it was time to clear some items up. Does anybody have any questions or issues with an auction house in the light industrial or central business district? Anyone? And I will entertain a motion in a second to go back into open session.
Move to go back into open session. Second.
I have a motion and a second to go back into open session. All in favor say aye. I'm blowing through this evening. I'm losing the countdown. Only got a couple.
No blame.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right. We are back in open session. You have a text amendment application for you to add auction house into the permitted uses and add them in central business district and light industrial.
I would like to make a motion that 2021-ZTA-08 is not inconsistent with comprehensive plans that have been adopted by the town of Spring Hood, that 2021-ZTA-08 is reasonable and in the public interest, and that the Board of Commissioners does approve adding auction houses to light industrial and central business, provided that said auction houses have on-site loading area. And to amend chapter 26, section 70 as such.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that 2021 ZTA 08 is not inconsistent, is reasonable in the public interest, is approved by the Board of Commissioners with the amendment to add, they must have on-site loading, unloading area.
Correct.
All in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the budget amendment. I'm going to turn this over to the clerk to give us the rundown on this.
Okay, this, is for the AIA grant that, the, Maggie and Associates are working for us. And this is a reimbursement for the money that he's already spent. I need to, decrease, revenue, which is $116,500, and put it into the expenses. This is water and sewer, and this is just, housekeeping so that I can write him a check.
I will need a motion and a second to approve this budget ordinance amendment.
I'll make a motion, we approve it. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the 2022-02 budget amendment ordinance. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion passes. Next item I have on my agenda, to pass that to the clerk, please, is consideration of action for Facebook comment policy. Clerk, I will turn this back over to you again.
Okay, so, several months ago, we turned off the comments due to, profanity and, just really not nice behavior. So I got in touch with the School of Government, their law professor, and she, gave me this template for a, Facebook comment policy, well, actually all social media. And, what it does is it gives us permission to delete, people's comments and also to use the profanity filter. And, anything that's not related to governmental, policies and our unit, we can delete if it's offensive or threatening in any way. And it's up to you guys whether you want us to put the comments back on or not.
Any other question for you commissioners?
I don't see an issue with putting the comments back on since we have this actual policy that will filter out the profane, obscene language, the derogatory comments and things like that.
I agree.
Is this a built-in filter that will do it automatically, or will you just
You have to.
go back to have to
Yeah,
check?
you gotta check the filters on the settings on the Facebook page.
But once you do that, it will automatically,
As
you
far as
have
I
to
know,
monitor it.
right, but we still have to monitor it and make sure that there's not any, like negative or threatening comments or anything that, is against, and there's like all kinds of rules on there, anything that would be against anyone's, like a prejudice or anything, political, anything like that.
And it'll just block the particular post, not necessarily the person.
No, it won't block the person. We're
Just the
not gonna block people, we're gonna block their comments. And that's just according to this policy, and this is a legal binding, contract, like I said, I did have an attorney, and I also got, Mark Edge, so it's not something I made up.
An attorney and marketing?
An attorney from the School of Government.
That's fine.
Well, like, he's more like an employee.
That's all right. No, you said you're just fine. You said it's just fine.
Everybody else think, like I said, we were good with it, with this policy.
I mean, do you have the opportunity to go back and shut off the comments again? At least it does open the
I
comments
have the
back up.
opportunity to just shut it off completely. We don't have to have a Facebook page. There's nothing that says we have to have it.
Mhm.
I make a motion that we go ahead and turn the Facebook comments back on, making sure that we're in line with this social media comment policy.
We'll need a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to bring the Spring Hope social media comment policy online and to reopen the comments on Facebook. There's no more discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion passes. Next item I have on my agenda is, I believe Mr. Ethan Duster's here with comments and updates from the Chamber of Commerce.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Good to see everybody tonight. Hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. I do want to invite everybody, including the public and the Commissioners and Mayor, downtown this Friday evening as Spring Hope Chamber of Commerce celebrates Christmas in Spring Hope. Local area merchants and vendors will occupy Main Street and be open for business, as well as providing the public snacks. Chamber will offer horse and buggy rides, live music, opportunity for kids to go coloring with Santa, and a opportunity for pictures in the former Little General Store building. We will be closing a couple streets, primarily Main Street and Railroad Street, for the safety of pedestrians. But we expect pedestrians to be all up and down Pine Street and Main Street, and here at Town Hall. before I continue my update, any questions concerning our upcoming event this Friday? Good.
Are you arranged with the police, streets blocked off?
I believe we will have all of that squared away by Friday.
What time you talking about, 5 o'clock?
It's 5:30 to 8. On November 22nd, the Chamber of Commerce held our annual business meeting and elected new officers. I'd like to take the opportunity to acknowledge Betsy Strickland and Karen White will be leaving the executive board this year, and we appreciate their service. For 2022, I will continue my role as president. Mr. Michael Ward of Showside Grill will be vice president. Ms. Kelly Tomaszewski of Extreme Cabinetry, a local area resident and a business owner out of Rocky Mount, will be joining us as vice president of events. Yeah.
Chips.
Shevsky. I butcher it every time. Claris Visit, as we all know, Ms. Claris will stay as treasurer. Newcomer to the board, Ms. Kathy Curtis, her and her husband Pete own the Webb's Mill property as well as Curtis Insulation here in town. She'll be joining us as assistant treasurer. Tammy Sullivan, the Spring Hope Barber, will retain her spot as secretary. Ms. Leanne Hale is joining us this year from One Man's Treasure as assistant treasurer. And that will be our board for the next year, and we look forward to welcoming those new faces and working with this board and the chamber, downtown development board and town hall staff this coming year. I would like to also take this opportunity to express the chamber's thanks to a couple members of the board that are leaving us today. I know further in the next item of business is swearing in, but Mr. Tucker, thank you for your participation in town government. I know it's not always easy. It's public service is not for the faint of heart or the thin skin, so I appreciate your dedication to the town. Mayor Broughton, thank you for joining us in this endeavor of making Spring Hope better. 20 years of service to our town is definitely a triumph, and we appreciate everything that you do for the town. I sincerely appreciate your dedication to the chamber. Lord knows Pumpkin Festival would not be able to happen without you. If you don't have electricity, you don't have festival.
I thought he was waiting me to start the 50th anniversary one next week.
So since you have all this free time,
We can do more.
I will see you downtown first weekend in October. And we'll make it happen one last time, I guess. Also wanted to thank 3 people in the room that maybe don't get as much credit as they have after Buddy's 20 years of service, and that is Jan, Emma, and Jamie. I can only imagine the cold dinners left on the table, or the late nights and early mornings that he dashes out to handle town business and left you at home. Thank you for sharing Buddy with us for all these years. But you can have it back. Buddy, thank you for your service. Thank you for sharing, and we look forward to this next season.
50. Go 50.
And 50 is coming soon. Thanks.
Thank you. And with that is the end of old business.
No. We have a few other things we need to do first, please. First, Commissioner Tucker, thank you so much for the last 4 years. You've been a good friend and a wonderful commissioner, and I do appreciate everything you've done for me and for the town. And Buddy, we have a few things that we would like to give you.
My chair. My sign, family sign.
Sorry, I got the chair earlier.
You tried to get him to seal off the wall earlier before the meeting.
I said we could get a new one.
I think I saw Mr. Barbie earlier. I don't know if he came in or not. Alan, you have another copy of this?
I think
Because Commissioner Wilkins wants to take it down and give it to me as I go out the door tonight.
We can get another one drawn.
Once I stand up, I'm running.
So before we get started on this, Commissioner Tucker would like to thank you for your service on the board. I've enjoyed serving with you. Been a very good member of the board, and wish you the best in whatever you decide to do now that you don't have to spend your first Monday of every month with us. We'd love to have you in the audience, hopefully, because you've been a good member of the board. We appreciate your service. And I say that as a board member and a town resident. So, get started. Got something here for Buddy. This is a plaque for you, Buddy, from the.
You want me to come around? Or can I
Yeah,
sit
come
here?
around. This is for the.
Just fine, sit back.
From the.
Closer.
From the board and from the employees of the town. Just a thank you for your dedicated service to the town of Spring Hope, presented to you here the 6th day of December 2021. You never cease to amaze.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. No, you can't go. Let's see here.
You got more.
Got more coming. So, in addition, for Mayor James F. Waltley III.
Two wars, coat tied tonight.
Yeah, he's sharp tonight. We have a proclamation from the town of Spring Hope, a proclamation honoring Mayor James F. Waltley III for distinguished service as mayor of the town of Spring Hope, North Carolina. Whereas Mayor James F. Waltley III has served the town of Spring Hope with distinguished and outstanding service from December 2001 to December 2021. Whereas his length of service to the town includes many worthwhile and lasting accomplishments. Whereas Mayor James F. Waltley's outstanding service to the town of Spring Hope reflects well upon himself and the town he led for 20 years. And whereas we all owe a substantial debt of gratitude to Mayor Waltley. Now therefore it be resolved that a copy of this proclamation be presented to Mayor James F. Waltley III in a public ceremony, and that a copy of the proclamation become a permanent record of the town. And that we, the Spring Hope Board of Commissioners and employees, do hereby honor Mayor James F. Waltley III.
I'll make a motion that we receive that proclamation into public record.
Second.
All in favor?
Also, I'll make a second motion real quick. We had thought about a certain day, and somebody suggested a good date. And so we would like to proclaim, I make a motion, we proclaim August 24th, your birthday, is Mayor James F. Waltley Buddy Day. And I make that motion.
Second it all day.
No. It's holiday for me. Your name has to be James F. Waltley.
All in favor?
All opposed?
Anybody be opposed? And so, one more thing, buddy, before we let you go. Couple of things, but last thing for me. In this folder, there are several letters from the Board of Commissioners, each of us, and from some town residents. Just personal thank yous to you for all the things that you've done in the last 20 years over and above your official duties and outside of what a lot of people thinks that they might not even know that you've done, that we all appreciate. So when you have time, you might want to look through those. And so, yes, sir. And so they were all done in support of this award for Mr. Waltley, Mr. Mayor Waltley, which is the Old North State Award. So for dedication and service beyond expectation and excellence to the great state of North Carolina, and on behalf of the citizens of the state, the Governor, Roy Cooper, bestows on James F. Waltley III the Old North State Award. Working together, we can make North Carolina a place of unlimited opportunity, a place where anyone who studies hard, works hard, and lives a life with high values can fulfill and even exceed their potential. So it's a real honor to give this to you, buddy. That's Speech.
Okay, we do have one more thing. This is a gift from all of the employees of the town. We just want you to know how much we love you and how much we're gonna miss you. And that's all I can say, unless I'm gonna bust out in tears.
To my family. Where's my dinner? Where's my warm dinner?
Just call me.
I appreciate everything. Appreciate the town has trusted me for 20 years to do this job. I love it, love all of the people. You have to. I mean, it's ongoing. It's not a one night a week thing. It's a 30+ day a month thing. And thank you all very much. And I will still be around. Yeah, but let's wear a little picture. You need a card.
There's a card out there. There's a card out there.
I thought you were gonna put me on the retirement plan. Mr. Richard? Mr. Jeffries, would you like to come up and get ready as we leave? Thank you for your service. Again, this is right now. Albert.
Thank y'all. Chair, buddy.
Excuse me, Tony, we're gonna do you with the other two commissioners, if you don't mind.
Okay, so.
You just- We're gonna do Tony and Brent and Drew together.
Oh.
But you can do yours now if you want.
What's that?
You can do yours first, but then I still have the other three commissioners. I have.
Okay.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of North Carolina and faithfully discharge the duties of the town of Spring Hope Mayor according to the best of your ability, and you will not accept or receive directly or indirectly any money or other valuable things from any corporation, company, or person for any vote or influence you may give or withhold as the town of Spring Hope Mayor on any bill, resolution, or appropriation, or for any act you may do or perform as a mayor for the town of Spring Hope. So help you God.
I do.
Mr. Mayor, congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, Tony and Drew and Brent. Yeah, right here.
I'm do the same thing, just stay a little bit.
Anything else?
You ready? I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of North Carolina and faithfully discharge the duties of Town of Spring Hope Commissioner according to the best of my ability, and I will not accept or receive directly or indirectly any money or other valuable thing from any corporation, company, or person for any vote of influence I will give or withhold as a Town of Spring Hope Commissioner on any bill, resolution, appropriation, or for any act I may do or perform as a commissioner for the town of Spring Hope. So help me God.
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I knew
Yeah.
Got me talking.
What do you say?
Back to the chamber.
Another coincidence.
Ms. Lucas is one in charge of
You're on this side.
Hello. All right, before we get started, I'd like to ask Pastor Larry Perry if he'll open us up in a word of prayer.
And we do want to remember the family of Robert Dole tonight, as they mourn his passing. Wonderful man, gave his whole life to this country. This is an appeal to our Heavenly Father tonight. I jotted this prayer down. Let's bow our heads in prayer. Prayer for divine assistance, guidance, blessing, and protection for the leaders in this municipal government of the town of Spring Hope. Lord, lead and guide and direct the new mayor, the town board, the town manager, employees, the police, the fire and rescue people. Lord, we just pray for a spirit of cooperation, compassion, unity, and commitment from the leaders of this town. Lord, just bless each one, guide each one. We pray for them. I believe these are men and women of whom is spoken in the sacred text in 1 Chronicles 12:32. The children of Issachar, who were men that had understanding of the time to know what Israel ought to do. Dear Father, thank you for these men and women who know what ought and needs to be done for the town of Spring Hope. And this blessed holy season as we celebrate the birth of our Savior in the coming new year, Lord, may your influence and your goodness be felt by one and all. We ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right, so before I get into the agenda, if I could just say a few opening comments, take about 3 or 4 minutes of your time, if the board is okay with that. Okay. All right. Well, as I begin my new tenure as your mayor, I'm very humbled to be up here. I feel very honored to sit up here and serve as your mayor. I'm a little nervous. Right now, this is more nervous than I've ever been, I think, in front of a crowd. This is not a small responsibility. This is a big task. And I owe it to all 1,400 residents that live inside the city limits, so I take this very seriously. I'd like to thank my mom and my sister, which are in the back there, for always being there, supporting and loving me. I'd like to thank my oldest sister, who's deceased, Carol Lee, for letting me know that when I was little, that even though I was the youngest and I was the smallest, it was still okay to do what the big kids were doing and always look forward and dream. And I'd also like to thank my dad, who passed away a couple of years back, and he never picked me up when I failed. And he didn't congratulate me when I lost. I didn't get a medal, just for participation. And one summer when I was 13 years old, I remember the first time I made money and went out and cut grass for the whole summer, worked real hard. Came back, counted the money, and he sat down with me, looked at it. And he took the money and then he gave me an invoice. And on the invoice was gas, rental of the lawnmower, belts, blades. And after that, he said, the world's not going to give you anything. It's just going to try to take stuff away from you if you let it. So when I fell down, he made me get up on my own. And if I wanted an award, I had to win. He told me to always be consistent, persevere, try until you succeed, compete until you win. And that's what we have to do as a town. So to myself and to the board, don't ever let somebody tell you that you can't do something, that we can't do something, not history, precedents, not even Mother Time, because we can do it. I found that if people can't do something themselves, they want to tell others that they can't do it. If it's the will of the people, then let's do it. Let's go after it and make it happen. In this lifetime, you don't have to prove anything to anybody except for yourself. The level of excellence that you hold yourself to, the work ethic that you hold yourself to. Sometimes in the past, I thought I wasn't making a big enough impression or enough progress or doing things well enough in other people's eyes, so I'd quit and I give up. But as a board, we can't quit. We can't give up. We have 1,400 citizens that are counting on us. So there's going to be many challenges ahead. We have to face those challenges head on. There's people counting on us. We got a lot of work to do, and it won't be easy. So something that I ask each of you is to pick some goals that you can champion during your 4-year tenure, or for some, your 2-year tenure. Let's not put a 20-year plan in place because things are changing very rapidly. We must put 4-year plans in place for ourselves. Attainable goals. We need to own it. We need to see it through and make sure it happens during our term. Work every day as if it will be your last day to accomplish your goals. Let's be the leaders that the people elected us to be. So I ask everything that you do, everything that I do, and I pledge as mayor to always leave everything I touch, everything we touch, better off than it was before we touched it. For the citizens here tonight, please go out in the community and share what you heard with others. The town has something to be extremely excited about. I encourage everyone you talk to say, get involved, to help shape the future of Spring Hope. There's just 6 of us up here. We want to listen to you. We want to know your vision. We want your feedback, your guidance. We want to hear your voice. We want to truly let the will of the people write Spring Hope's future. So please go out and ask everyone to help write the next few chapters in Spring Hope's history together as a team. All right. And now moving on to new business. First item on my agenda is the appointment of the mayor pro tem. Do we have any nominations?
I nominate Drew Griffin.
Second.
Okay. So we'll take a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion passes. Congratulations, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. The next item on the agenda is consideration of the approval of the 2022 meeting schedule. Consider to approve the schedule. And do I have a motion for approval?
Make a motion we approve the meeting schedule for 2022.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? 2022 meeting schedule is approved. Next item on the agenda, appointment of new members to the Downtown Development Board. Applications are in your agenda packet. And I've got a quick question for Michelle. Do these applications expire? Is there an expiration date on them? No.
And everybody that's on, all of these people want to be on the board. They've
Okay.
all expressed
Okay.
a desire to be on the board currently.
All right. My only recommendation, I know it's at the board's mercy to make a decision, my recommendation is that there are some applicants that brought it to my attention, they have an application that's not in this packet. I recommend that we table it and let the additional application be reviewed before we make the decision. But that's you guys' decision.
If there are any, they didn't tell me they wanted to continue to be on the board. These are the only 4 that I got that said, when it was made that we were going to take applications, I got these 4 people, and that's it. There's no expiration, but you have to let me know that you're still interested.
Okay. All right, so then we'll vote on the applications, or we can delay it. It's you guys' decision. You're the board making the vote.
We have 2 openings, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What's that?
There's 2 openings.
Yes, 2 openings.
So obviously, I'll recommend one. I'll make a motion because I actually requested that he submit an application
Is
that
that
I would
what you want
recommend.
to do this?
We write them down.
Right, we
Oh,
write them
right
down.
now?
Yeah, we write them down
We've
and
done
then
it
go
different.
through it.
Yeah.
So we just would each of us write our 2?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and just pass it down here to me, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Or
make
give
sure
it to
you're-
Mark.
Make sure your name is on your piece of paper.
And thanks to the citizens that stepped up to do it, Ms. Pam Brantley, Mr. Jason Himmelwright, Ethan Lester, and Eric Gaines. Thank you for the ones that volunteered.
You need paper? No, I just have to paper.
You send me a little scrap, yeah. You don't mind? Thank you.
We pass them down, you right. Or you can give them to Mark.
Everybody's name is on there,
All
right?
right, yeah. Mhm.
The commissioner's name is on the piece of paper, right?
Yeah, they're gonna write their names on the paper. And then
You
they're gonna
understand
post it
what
too.
Okay.
At 2:00.
Yeah, they put their name on it and then they post it too.
We can do it during the environment, we can count during the environment report.
Okay.
Are you trying to give that report?
If they want me to get the monthly report.
I don't think it's on.
Did everybody pass down?
3, 4, I got 5. Yeah.
They might have interrupted him at some point. Or maybe before theirs.
We want to the next item, we want to tally those now?
Yeah, I'm gonna go back here with Mark and so we
Okay.
can tally them and then, you can go on to,
What's
the
the-
environment report.
Well,
Doing that, I know we're gonna be having discussion with terms of the officers. I know that was originally discussed. So if you've got somebody that's interested, that has an application that you say is not active, but they got one out there, they probably need to contact the sheriff.
Okay.
And get it back active. I think there's an opening on the planning board as well for an alternate.
Okay.
I think there's an opening there, so I will let them know.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, so we're gonna move on to the next item of the agenda tonight is the town attorney's report.
I have a couple items, but they're for closed session, so
Okay.
nothing for public session.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, environment's report.
Good evening. Maybe it's not able to be here tonight, so I'm going to fill in for. The Country Inn lift station, the week of Thanksgiving, we had some problems with the pumps there. We had to pump it down, and one of the pumps had just recently been replaced. It was stopped up. We were able to get it unstopped and it's working. The other pump, looks like the bearings have gone bad in it. So I believe Mr. Lamb has started the process of getting that taken care of. Can't read my writing here. The Lemon Leaf crew, they did not finish up last week. We had one man that was on vacation last week to travel. And so they got a little behind, but they were here this afternoon and just about finished up everything. A couple hours tomorrow, they should have the rest of it knocked out and be back on schedule for the following week. The water system flushing, I think we're going to try to schedule that for next Tuesday night. I sent an email to Sandra about it. That was this afternoon. She's going to confirm that time will work good, and we're going to do that from 10 to 2 on Tuesday night. Just flushing hydrants and trying to improve the water quality. And that's really all I've got.
Thank you.
I got a question. When are we gonna cover, when you gonna cover those holes you got around? On, what street?
Holes?
Branch right in front of it.
Branch, Second, Ash.
Ash Street.
Virginia's everywhere.
No, cover up the holes, excuse me, we do have a contractor that's gonna start, I talked to him, what's today, Monday? I talked to him Thursday, it's not environmental, it's a separate contractor, and he's supposed to start.
Hold on. Your other cohort there, the young lady, told us 3 months ago that they would go back and recompact the material in front of the post office. They would do it. We cannot pave until they do that.
The post office wasn't on,
All of them. You do not compact any material you put back in a hole.
They have redug up the one on Second Street.
What type of compaction machine did you use?
They used the
What was it?
Mini X.
That's not a compaction machine.
Well, we can dig them up and get.
They need to be done correctly. And take the mud and this gravel you put back in and put good gravel back in?
We dug them back up and we put the screenings in the bottom hole, and then on top we put
Okay.
crush and run.
When you do this, would you please inform me? I want to watch you dig them up and see that that is a true statement you just
Can I
made.
get some contact information from you?
Oh, you can.
I'm sorry, I jumped into the middle. Our thing is for Hopkins, and then I have 2 on Ash Street.
Okay,
So
thank
it
you.
doesn't have anything to do with the thing in front of the post office. It has nothing to do with that. It's just, it's the other ones.
Thank you. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, we didn't do that one.
Any other questions or discussion? Next item on the agenda is the police chief's report.
How's everybody doing? We have 5 calls for service that required an incident report, criminal activity. If you could, if you want to look at those, I delivered them to you. They didn't get put in the packets, but I put them at your seats. Total calls for service, we had 151, 30 vehicle stops. That number is down due to several officers being out with COVID. Everybody's good and well, and everybody's back on the scene now, down from the last couple months. Security checks, we had 162. We had 3 traffic accident reports and 6 reported street lights out. We do have Shop with a Cop scheduled next weekend in Zebulon. I've selected 7 kids from Spring Up Elementary, or 6 from Spring Up Elementary and 1 from Southern Nash Middle. We're going to be meeting them at the police department at noon Saturday and going to the Walmart in Zebulon where they're going to get to have a little shopping spree.
And I think we just read about some accolades for one of your officers that reflects directly on your leadership. He was very passionate and genuine with the individual, and so thank you for your excellent leadership and being a great role model.
Absolutely. And I also heard that same officer also found your trunk lid open at 2 in the morning.
Yes, and came and he sure did, and so thank you. And that was
yeah, we got a really good group, and that, as I commented in that post, I feel like it's the best department spring we've ever had.
Thank you guys. Thank y'all for what you do.
Yeah, we've got a great department. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, Town Hall report. Statements from Mr. Hal Mason, Interim Manager.
You have a written copy of my initial report to the town board, but I would state a couple of things. One is that every day about 12:30, 1 o'clock, I walk around. At my age, I like to walk a little bit. So I go walk around your downtown area and down to the residential area. And I really want to make a statement that I think your downtown area has a lot of potential. It's just amazing, the buildings that you have down here. Most of them are vacant, I understand that, but there's a lot of potential. The other comment I would make is that I'm pleased to know that you're part of the North Carolina Main Street system, something I worked in back when Main Street started, and we were in Shelby, we were one of the initial Main Street cities, and I helped start the program. So I'm really pleased to find out that you have an active membership in that organization. The other thing I would compliment you on is your historic residential areas. Again, a lot of nice older homes. I haven't been out to some of your surrounding neighborhoods, but just absolutely beautiful, and you need to be proud of that. But I also would say that my short time here, I found out you have significant infrastructure and economic development issues and challenges that you need to face here in the near future. One of the other things that I've worked on since I've been here is trying to get you a permanent town manager. When I came here, I found out you were working through the COG, which is great, but I volunteered to the former mayor that I would help in that recruitment effort. And as a result of that, we placed, Michelle has placed another ad on the North Carolina League of Municipalities website. We've also placed an advertisement on the North Carolina City and County Management Association website and the North Carolina American Planning Association website. So I hope we get some applications. So far, we haven't received any, but that was only a few days ago that we placed the advertisements. So we hope to have some interviews in the next month or so to fill that position. Planning and zoning is, I found out, has been one of the primary functions of the town manager, because the town manager also functions as your development official. So I've been spending a lot of time on that, trying to get caught up on what's happened and what you're facing in the future. Your budget looks okay to me, and I think it's you're doing pretty well on the budget side, and that's my compliments go to Michelle and the other folks that have worked on the budget. I think the town hall staff is doing a great job. That's one of the things I've done 6 interim positions in my retirement, and one of the things that you're lucky to have is good staff. I've gone into some communities and found out there was not really good staff support, but I think you have a good staff and you need to be proud of that. Before I forget it, I think we need to recognize the code enforcement official and to give her a report.
All right, thank you. And this report is for November, the month of November. Year to date, we have opened 120 cases for violation, and we've abated 99 of those. Currently, we have opened 21, and 19 are in progress. 2 are brand new with no progress as yet. And so during the month of November, we continue to focus on some of the cases that we've had open for a while that we previously opened. And also we opened new cases this month. We opened 9 new cases during the month, and we successfully abated 11 cases, including 3 of those that we opened during the same month. And we addressed minimum housing, junk piles, junk nuisance vehicles, and overgrown lot violations. And then there's a few of the residences that I would like to mention in reference to the property located at 202 Hopkins Street. This case was open for multiple vehicle violations and open storage. I have personally spoken with the owner many times and delivered many notices, and I'm still in contact with her. I'll stop by there today to visit her again and ask her to clean up the tools and things there, but either she wasn't home or she didn't come to the door. So I'm working on that. We're going to send a final notice to her and possibly a civil penalty. I contacted the owner of Branch Street, 326 East Branch Street, because that house has been sitting there for a long time with a lot of open areas underneath it and around it. And the homeowner was very gracious, and he went to work right away and started working on that. He's got all of those, it's like an underpinning because the house sits up on blocks. He got all of that closed in. So there's no animals or vagrants or anybody that can enter the house or underneath the house because he's got it closed in. So he's working on the appearance of the structure, and he should be finishing that up in the near future. And also, I completed research and located the new owners of 801 East Nash Street and 926 East Nash Street, and sent notices of violation to each of those new owners to let them know that there was a violation on the property. And the 801 East Nash Street is scheduled to be demolished during the month of December. And the plans are underway right now for renovation of the 926 East Nash Street. It's a shell of a structure, but it's going to be renovated and a house is going to be made there. So at this time, I'll just ask if you have any questions or comments about any properties or anything that I can answer for you. Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, wait, I'm so sorry. They didn't make the agenda, but I still have 2 items for the town hall report.
Okay.
That's okay. First, we did tally the votes, and our new board members are Eric Gainey and Pam Brantley for the downtown development. Do we need a motion for that? Okay. Then the last thing is, what's today's Monday, Friday, I think it was. I got a phone call, because I'm the contact person for any grants or any monies coming into the town, from NC Diener, which is the water and sewer people in the state. And they sent me these, a form and instructions to, for us to get the money, even though, I mean, it's our money, but it is restricted. We can't use it for anything we want. We have to follow these guidelines that are on here, because actually these funds are considered money from the American Rescue Plan. They're not considered just funds. So we have to follow very strictly these rules that come from the state and from the feds. So we just need to look over this. We have to decide what we want to do. We have to get engineers on it. We have to have plans. We have to have dates. We have to have projects. And we have to have a lot of this stuff done within, I'd say, the next 30 days. But we need to decide what kind of, who we want to do it as far as the engineer. There are several things that are not available to use for this project, for this money. It is our money, but we do have to follow the guidelines. And it's really restricted, which you kind of probably knew that, just for the simple fact that it's coming from the government. They are gonna tell us when we can use it and how we can use it. So yeah, that's it. I mean, they're not gonna just give us $3 million. They're gonna, I mean, they're gonna, like, we'll do a project and they're like, oh, we're doing this project, and then they'll give us the money.
Do you know if we comply and we reach capacity, which is where we, successfully complete the task of the project to move up? Do you know what the total dollar amount we could get?
Right now, it's just 3.7.
3.7.
Yeah. That's how much it is right this minute. I don't know that they're gonna like give us extra or whatever, but I do know that that is the limit right this minute. Why, did you know that they're giving us more, or? Okay, well, anyway, so we have to get on this. I also have an application that I have to fill out, even though the money is ours, we still have to fill out this application, which is called the request for funding. And there's a lot of needle work for me to do, like saying how many people are in town, how much water we use, how much we've spent, how much we made. So yeah, all that has to be done as well.
Within the next 30 days.
Yeah, I have to get on it. I think, and then with the funds don't actually have to be obligated, I think, until 2024. But I don't think we want to wait until 2024. Anyway, I just wanted to update you all on that. I know there's been a lot of rumors thinking we can use the money forever we want, and we can't. We have to follow these guidelines. If we don't follow the guidelines and we spend money, it's going to be money out of our pockets. It won't be money that we get back from the state.
In a situation like this, when it's most critical in the past, have you organized some type of closed session, work session? Since we've only got 30-day timeline, and we're short-staffed, we've got an interim town manager.
Typically, the clerk is the one that is tasked with getting that done. The clerk and the manager will take the daily responsibility of filling out the application and getting that part done,
Is it physically possible to do all what they're saying in 30 days?
You just got to get the application done.
But we also have to, I'm not sure if we have to do the RFQ for the,
We're not,
for the,
we're not at that point.
well, they want some engineering stuff on here as well.
Basically, the next, correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, but the next step is a letter of intent to fund. And that's kind of a general application. Then some of these other things like the engineering and stuff like that have to follow after that.
Right.
It's my understanding from Michelle and other people that there is a list, or was a list generated of some projects that of course, that these funds would be used for. But again, that's a board decision, and I'd look for you for that guidance, and I'm sure Michelle would.
It is a 100% board decision. There was a temporary estimate that was sent into the state, and I sent it again when Dina called. They called me 2 months ago. So that they could give the people working on the budget an idea of what we were going to use it on. But I mean, we can vary from that slightly, but it's got to be in that line, like doing pipes or lift station or something like that. It can't just be willy-nilly. It's got to be a project.
I think that when that list generated back in May of last year, or this year, I'm sorry.
Kevin, Kevin did do his own.
Kevin or Mike Tolson.
Yep.
Anyway, that's it for me.
Is COG assisting in the town manager search?
I'm sorry?
COG is still assisting the town manager, or we going?
That's again your call, but I did offer to the former mayor that I would become involved. And,
Right.
that's your call. We can talk about it during the closed session. We can talk about that in closed session.
Any other comments from the town report? Next item on the agenda is other business. Anything from the commission? Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So we'll start on the left with Commissioner Wilkins for other business. Commissioner Cummings.
No, sir.
Then,
You're the hired man.
None of the hired help.
You can speak, and I'll speak for you. That's not good.
Next item on the agenda pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318, .11A, closed session to consult with attorney to protect the attorney-client privilege. So at this time, we're gonna have to enter in closed session.
So I make a motion, we go in closed session.
Okay.
Second.
Second.
We need to have a motion second, we have a vote.